Okay, welcome to this morning's webinar on how to nail your value proposition and scale your business. This is an essential step if you want to scale, because if you don't have enough demand, if you don't have a little bit more demand than you can really easily cope with, then you don't have the flow of income coming in to allow you to spend the money on systems, on people, on other resources to scale up. So this is really essential. Let me just navigate this. There we go. So today's webinar is based on one of the 5 parts of a book that I'm launching, in fact, next week, called Startup, Scale Up or Screw Up. It's based on my adventures and misadventures as a founder in 5 businesses over several decades, and more recently as a business coach. So I guess you probably want something like this if you're interested in scaling your businesses. You want ideal customers queuing up to come to you. You want a high-performing team taking responsibility for the company's success. And you want to be able to relax in Bali with your family, chilling and planning your next strategic steps. So that's what we're setting out to do. So let's take a look at an example of a great value proposition. We all know Harley-Davidson motorbikes. They've been around a long time. What do you think their value proposition is? Do you think it's about having a better motorbike? Perhaps a bigger engine, a more comfortable ride, the look of it, the features. What do you think the value proposition of this bike is? Well, some time ago, the real value proposition came out when a motorbike journalist was interviewing the European director of Harley-Davidson. And he asked him the seemingly innocent question, how's the motorbike business going? And the director answered, well, I don't know, because we're not in the motorbike business. And the journalist looked puzzled and said, well, you sell motorbikes, don't you? And he said, well, no. We sell 43-year-old accountants the opportunity to dress up in leather and ride through small towns making a loud noise and scaring people. So that really gets to the heart of the business that they were in, giving somebody with perhaps a dull job during the week the opportunity to dress up and be who they really wanted to be on the weekends, and get a feeling that they wouldn't get on a Japanese bike. Even though the Japanese bike might be better performing, might be cheaper, might be more reliable, they're not going to get the feeling that they want unless they're on a Harley-Davidson. So understanding the deeper business that they were in allowed Harley-Davidson to maintain their business with an onslaught of cheaper and better Japanese bikes coming in over several decades. So what business are you really in? It's important to really understand that bigger picture because it can help you grow and survive. But if you get it wrong, it can put you out of business. Let's take a look at Kodak. Kodak's business model was to give away their cameras pretty much at cost and make all their money on the film. And, back in the day, Kodak film really was the dominant, almost monopoly film. There were others like Fuji, but Kodak had about 95% of the business. People were writing songs about, Kodachrome, Paul Simon and others, and everyone used Kodak film, and they were making a mint. And then at some stage, along came a couple of scientists actually employed by Kodak, and they came up with the first digital camera. And in the picture you see there on one side, the actual first rendition of a digital camera, and then on the other side, a modern version of the digital camera. Now, admittedly, the first version looked rather unwieldy, and the images that it produced were rather sort of scratchy black and white images. But when the scientists presented this to the Kodak management, they rejected it because it basically would have destroyed what they thought was their business model, making all the money out of film. And here was a camera that was going to do away with film. Well, as it happened many years ago, myself and my partner had an audiovisual production company, and we did a launch for camera. We did a launch for Kodak at the stage when they first came out with a instant developing film, which was going to compete with Polaroid. And what we did was we created a little slideshow that demonstrated the history of Kodak cameras, and in particular, how they were used by ordinary families to take snapshots. And often these snapshots, weren't professional looking photos at all, but they captured memories. And for that reason, they were important to people, and people loved Kodak for their ability to push the button and capture a memory. So what Kodak really didn't understand, but we somehow had instinctively understood years ago, was that Kodak wasn't in the film business, they were in the memory business. And had they really been conscious of that, they would have hung around with digital film as another form of capturing memories. So your value proposition is the foundation to scaling your business. When you've got that right, you can move on to your plan and your strategy, getting the right people, developing your processes and systems, and working on your marketing and sales and other forms of promotion like networking. But first comes getting the proposition right. So what are the different ways you can think of developing your value proposition? Well, there are quite a few, starting with the business you're really in, the jobs to be done framework, pain points, what people really want, providing a complete and remarkable solution, what I call an OMG WTF offer, a disruptive value proposition, playing a new game and getting the business model right. So we'll try to whip through these in the time that we've got. First of all, let's take a quick look at the jobs to be done framework. People don't want a quarter-inch drill, as a professor at Harvard said. They want a quarter-inch hole. So you basically buy or hire a product to get a job done. And years ago, when McDonald's were wanting to boost their sales of milkshakes, they hired a group of people to take a look at, well, why do people buy milkshakes? And in particular, they looked at people who buy them in the morning. And what they found was that most of the people who were buying them were on a long commute, 30 or 40 minutes of relatively boring driving to get to their job. And they wanted something to accompany them on the job. So they bought a milkshake, sat it in the seat next to them. And what they really wanted was something that was going to last most of that distance, would kind of fill them up and give them a sort of feeling of being, ready for work when they got there. So they kind of redesigned their milkshakes to be more like thick shakes, made some of the contents a bit chunkier, and found that they were able to, I think, quadruple their milkshake sales for the morning drive-through market as a result. Another framework is the pain points framework. What are the problems or frustrations that your customers have? Afterpay, realize that the younger fashion consumers in particular, they don't want to lay by. They want their clothes or whatever it is that they're buying now, but they prefer not to have to pay now. So they came up with this brilliant concept of buy now, pay later. But who was paying? Because actually the customer didn't pay anything that was interest-free. So they managed to persuade shops to pay the costs of this business model because they could show data that doing so would bring more young customers into their shops. So really the key value proposition was to the shops that this was going to bring more customers in, and that allowed them to set up the ability to make it free for customers. So lots of customers wanted it. That brought more people into the shops, more shops willing to pay for it, and on it went. So a brilliant solution there. Another way of looking at your value proposition is more on aspirations, more on desires and how people want to look. Lorna Jane realized that most active wear years ago, while it might have been functional, it didn't really have a fashion element. It didn't really look good. So she came up with active wear that, as well as going to the gym, you'd feel comfortable going down to the street, going to the supermarket, and hopefully people would think how fit and healthy you looked, and they could pretty much wear it anywhere, anytime. Another way of thinking about how to develop a value proposition is to look for what's missing in a product or a service. What are the frustrations that people have? The typical beach umbrella, difficult to put up, doesn't provide a whole lot of shade, and when the wind springs up, the thing flies down the beach and hopefully doesn't impale the family next to you and lead to all kinds of trouble. So an architect in the Sunshine Coast sat down one day and started sketching in the sand and came up with a better solution. A square-based umbrella, if you like, but then it has these 4 strips hanging down that you fill up with sand in pockets at the bottom, and that firmly anchors the umbrella so it won't fly away. And he engineered it to make it easy to put up and take down, and all stores in a nice little bag of its own. So it's a total solution to the problem, and it's so good that you tend to remark on it and tell about and tell your friends and colleagues about it. So if you can get to that complete and remarkable solution, then that's another great way to go. Another possibility is what I call the OMG WTF offer, an offer that wows the customer and scares the management, like Domino's Pizza. You get fresh hot pizza delivered to your door in 30 minutes or less, or it's free. That's great for the customer, but it scares the management because they think, well, what if we can't do it in 30 minutes? But of course, you try and come up with something that you think 99% of the time you can, and it's an appealing offer that in a basically commodity business where there are tons of other people offering pizza, you've created now an offer that distinguishes you and pulls in a lot more customers. Another way to go is to be specific and stack on lots of bonuses, stack the deck. So instead of saying, come to our gym and get fit and lose weight, you would say, lose 10 kilograms in 28 days and get your fee back when you succeed, plus a free gym outfit and 3 months club membership and supplements at half price. So you're basically creating an offer that is so stacked with bonuses and so promising that you'd feel stupid not to say no to it. You'd feel stupid to say no to it. Most businesses compete on these elements. We're better, we're cheaper, we're faster, or we're easier. But with those sort of claims, there are a lot of other people competing in a similar way. So it's a very crowded marketplace, and you can end up having to cut your prices and margins in order to compete. So are there ways to do it in a less fiercely competitive water? Well, if you disrupt or reinvent the market, that's a great way to, as they say, swim in a blue ocean. And that's what Canva did. Instead of having to hire an expensive graphic designer, you could go on the Canva platform and more or less pull up pieces of professional design to cut and paste and produce your own. Other examples of businesses that have disrupted or reinvented the market, an Australian one called Airwallex, which provides sort of do-it-yourself, cheaper international transfers of money that you don't need a bank and to get ripped off with the rates that a bank provides. The others you all know, Airbnb, Uber, Netflix, Amazon, kind of reinvented the market. And because of that, if they get it right, we're very successful. The final way of doing it, I call playing a bigger game. Before Fitbit, there were other step counters, if you like. But when Fitbit came along, they decided, well, instead of saying, well, we've got a better step counter that, is more accurate or, has a longer lasting battery or whatever, they went beyond that and they just promoted 10,000 steps a day for health. And because people bought into that as a good idea, they didn't have to compete in that harsh environment on their features and benefits. And if people bought into the belief that 10,000 steps a day was great for their health, they kind of automatically went on to buy Fitbit. Objections disappeared and Fitbit ended up for a long time owning the space. So see if you can fill in the blanks for your audience. When someone believes ... related to a higher purpose or a higher achievement, that would be the key to whatever the desired outcome is. In other words, if someone believes 12,000 steps is the key to a healthier, better life, then all objections disappear and the competition becomes irrelevant. So try to use that, fill in the blanks for your business and see if you can come up with that higher purpose. Other examples that have done that would be The Body Shop. We're against animal testing in beauty products. Patagonia. We care about the environment. Tesla. We're accelerating the transfer to renewable based transport. Who gives a crap? We're producing loo paper from recycled paper that's better for the environment, and so on. So if you want to scale up, you really need to stand out. What makes you special, better, different? That's important to your customer. Then it becomes a challenge of fine-tuning the right business model. A combination of your expertise, customer needs and wants, social and technological trends, connections that you might have, the relationships that you've already had, and sort of fiddling with them perhaps over some time to get the right model. And this is what Vinomofo founder Justin Dry had to do, and it took him 4 different attempts before he came up with Vinomofo, which is an online way of purchasing a small select collection of wines that they have curated and guarantee and stand behind at the cheapest prices you'll find, but with a great guarantee. You can buy 12 bottles, drink 1 bottle. If you don't like it, you can send back the other. They'll come and collect the other 11 bottles and they'll give you a full refund for the 12. So they've kind of taken away the risk and they've come up with a business model that suits their capabilities and what their niche is looking for. So what we're talking about really is solving the puzzle. And there are three essential elements: a great value proposition for your niche customer that generates demand, ongoing rising demand. Obviously, it needs to be profitable and preferably repeatable, so that you can either create more sites, like Fresh Networking, has more than a dozen sites, or coffee shop could have lots and lots of coffee shops, or you can scale up with the numbers of customers that you've got. So those are the essential things that you're looking for. Now, I'm not sure whether this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a try. There's a little video here.
It's a little known body transformation secret.
I'm going to get
a
rid
weird
of this,
six-second nice trick to your morning routine.
This, ad.
Solving in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Rubik's Cube that's got solved by artificial intelligence. So there we go. It's about solving the puzzle, and bringing it back to its simplest form. Really, people want either a solution to their main problem, they want their human wants and desires fulfilled, or they want an inspirational connection that takes them to a higher place. So that's the first element of the 5 springboards for scaling up. And the other elements, as well as more information on scaling up, it's all in a book that's being launched soon. And if you'd like a free advanced copy, or you'd like some conversation about your value proposition, email me at that address and I'll be happy to oblige. That's what I have for you this morning.